Hi, welcome to Punchline Talks, the business breakfast briefers. I'm Mark Owen, and each week I invite a panel of business experts to review the morning newspapers, find out what's happened in their own individual business and their own individual business sectors, and finally, what's caught their eye in this week's Punchline. This week will also be another hot topic, and the hot topic this week is working from home. Is there 3 o'clock clock off on a Friday? We'll have a chat about all that and see what the actual panel think about that. Okay, but before I start and introduce the panel, I just want to say a big thank you to Hazlewoods Accountants and Business Advisors who sponsor the show, and we really couldn't do without them. Okay, let's meet the panel. Today we've got Paul Bence. He's the MD of Bence Group. He's the sixth generation family to lead the businesses, and they're celebrating 171 years. 171 years of business. I think you guys must be one of the oldest businesses within the county, without a shadow of a doubt. The business employs 135 staff across 9 sites with a turnover of 38 million. The building trade, let's be honest, it is fierce out there, fierce competition. So we'll find out about that. But also, what's hot in the building trade? I really want to know if you get excited like I do with the new drills coming out or hammers, or I don't know, but we'll find out what Paul thinks about that. We got Ruth Dooley, partner at Hazlewoods. The company has more than 600 staff split across 4 offices: Cheltenham, Staverton, Bristol, Cardiff, an approximate turnover of 46 million. Ruth has been a tax practitioner in Gloucestershire for over 30 years with a very you grimace then, Ruth, portfolio of corporate and private clients, and has undertaken forensic work for more than 20 years. After being in the industry for 30 years, how is it changing? How is accountancy changing? And will AI wipe out those traditional level entry jobs? Will Ruth be replaced by a robot?
Or maybe I am one already.
Anyway,
Maybe I am one.
Could well be, Ruth. We've got Ben Caton, Managing Director of Erco Chair, crafted with love, a chair worth going into the office for. Erco Chair was created for people who need precision-tailored seating so they can work normally. The company employs 35 staff, turnover of 6 million. It's based in Bristol, but the business it does business all over the world. Ben has just come back from Saudi Arabia, so we'll find out about his trip and what it's like to do business over there. Probably a lot of sitting around. He is also the new chairman of the Pied Piper Appeal, so I know he's going to get a plug for that. And he's also the co-founder of Titan Performance Gym. We got Chris Boulton. He's the owner of Chris Boulton Photography. I've known Chris for over 20 odd years, and he's one of Gloucestershire's most respected photographers with over 10 years under his belt. He likes to call his work photography with soul. So we'll have a look at his work and find out how he makes a living of it. Because let's be honest, if you're in the creative industry like this, it is famine and feast. So I'm looking forward to Chris's thoughts on that as well, and having a good look at his work. Okay, guys, let's have a look at what's making the news today. First of all, let's start with the Times. It's a real mixed bag. The Times. 1 in 8 prisoners were born overseas, but the story on the right-hand side here, working for home today. We know you clock off at 3 o'clock. That's our hot topic. We got the Daily Express, record number of foreign sex offenders in British prisons. The Metro, poisoned at summer camp. The Mirror, poisoned at summer camp. The Eye, no negotiation with terrorists, says the Eye. The Financial Times, Microsoft market value touches $4 trillion. My goodness. The Daily Mail, proof Starmer's smash the Grams campaign is a joke. The Daily Telegraph, Labour bid to silent migrant hotel critics. The Sun, Hammer's gang gem on Harry, and the Daily Star, who are you? I don't get that, but there we go. It's all about Wayne Rooney. Do we really care? But we love the Daily Star, I must admit. Okay, let's start with you, Paul. Thanks for joining us today. What have you picked out for the papers, mate?
Morning, Mark. Well, it's more of a light-hearted one. It's a bit of a guilty pleasure, actually, buying The Sun. Even though I think the last time I bought it was about 30p. It's £1.20 now. It's not even a Sunday. But anyway, I think the last time I spoke about how to cook the perfect egg, I'm sure you remember that and went away and did it. But today I want to talk about the king of the swiggers, which is the love of booze, which has evolved from eating rotten fruit. So apparently our humans' love of booze comes from 8 ancestors who ate fermented rotten fruit in the jungle. See, a study from Sun suggested. So what they're saying is the modern ape shed a a light on humans' fondness for alcohol, first produced deliberately in China, of course, about 9,000 years ago. And experts point out that today's apes polish up to 10 pounds of mouldy jungle floor fruit a day, which ferments and becomes alcoholic as it breaks down. So effectively, you've got a lot of chimpanzees and gorillas who spend most of the day drunk, which I think is fantastic, really. And the second little story I picked up was in sort of the, I suppose it's in the beauty part of the Sun, and they were talking about a pair of sliders you can buy, a bit of plastic for £600. I've never even heard of Alma, who is apparently the top brand, and you can get exactly the same in Primark for £5.
Paul, are you a slider wearer, mate?
I'm trying to keep up with kids, so I do own a pair of sliders, but I refuse to wear a pair of socks with them because I'm too old for that.
Thank God for that, Ben. I got to ask you: are you a slider guy, mate?
I've got more than one pair, sadly, guys. Yeah, hands in the air, I do. And it's not all for holiday use either. So yeah.
Okay, Chris.
I don't possess a pair of sliders, I'm afraid, and I hope the guys aren't wearing socks with theirs because that would just be a complete faux pas.
I totally agree. Ruth, guys with sliders and okay, let's move back onto the serious stuff. Thanks so much for that. Okay, Ruth, what have you picked out for the papers? Thanks for that, Paul.
A couple of things. It's an important day for Trump tariffs. There's a bit of feedback. You're getting that too. No, okay.
No, you okay?
Okay. 68 countries, there's going to be effective in 7 days, unless, of course, you've done a deal. If you've done a deal, the UK is 10%, EU is 15%, Japan and South Korea and Israel. But the one that really seems to be being hit, who's putting the screws on the most, is Canada. And he's announced those tariffs will be at 35% because of fentanyl coming across the border. But actually, the fentanyl coming over from Canada is just 1% of that's imported to the USA. So it does seem to be particularly Canada and Mexico that Trump has got his eyes set on. Another story, another important day today for car finance. There's the decision in the Supreme Court about whether or not when car dealers were offering finance between 2007 and 2021, they were giving the correct financial advice. Now, the decision could go several ways, and lenders have already put $2 billion aside, but there's been a survey that says up to 23 million people are hoping to claim on this. And if they do so, The Guardian thinks it will cost about £44 billion. Now, this is not good news. And apparently Rachel Reeves is already considering government legislation to sort of soften the blow should the decision go against the, in favour of the consumer and against the car dealers, to protect the car industry and to sort of keep consumer confidence. So it looks like a really big thing, car finance, and we'll know today what the outcome of that case is.
And let's be honest about it, we've all seen those adverts advertising from solicitor firms chasing for people to come forward, haven't we? Thanks ever so much for that. Good selection of stories there. Ben, let's bring you in. What have you picked out for us today? And welcome to the show, by the way.
Yeah, cheers, Mark. Thanks for having me on. Nice to meet everybody. Yeah, so I picked out a couple of interesting ones. Story in the Financial Times, which was talking about the fact that the rate of pupils in the UK, across the UK, has dropped to an all-time low for choosing languages as a subject for study. So it's fallen another 1.5%, and actually now it means that less than 3% of any student that gets a choice on a subject chooses a language. I found it fascinating for lots of reasons. I mean, I chose a language. I think lots of people remember choosing French or German and then never using it, for any period of our life until we become real adults. But they kind of lean on the AI, the notion that Copilot only yesterday went public with their new built-in research tool. And more students are actually going, well, how do I need to learn a language? Because I can visually translate, I can translate any document I need, and I don't need it. So I thought that was a fascinating story. The second one that I went to actually was again in the FT, and it talked about China and the fact that they are actually actively blocking professionals of various things. So it could be like Ruth, it could be Paul, it could be anybody, any professional that visits China on a business visa now. They get into the airport on the way home and they're being blocked. And it's not just the geopolitical tension with the US. These are British, these are British nationals, these are foreign nationals, and they're being blocked quite rapidly. So it was 54 last month got stopped at the airport. And the beauty of the way they're doing it is they don't have to tell you why. So there's no information published, which I think interesting for me because I've got suppliers in China and I've got, less reason, shall we say, now to go out there and buy more plastic chair bits. So that's something that kind of interested me. And then the last one, bit of a local story. I got it from the Western Daily Press, talking about this sad state where actually we've got GigaClear and their VoIP phone. They've made a huge mistake rerouting the tech, and it meant that 984 people, residents of Gloucestershire, that rang 999 and needed emergency help. Well, guess what? Their location couldn't be found. So it was pretty useless. So actually emergency services were struggling to find those poor people. And I think that's an important story, being local.
Couldn't agree more. Thanks ever so much. Great section of stories. Very quickly, can anybody else speak a different language? Chris, can you speak any languages?
Only the international language of love. That's
So says the creative mind there. Ruth, can you speak languages?
A bit of French.
Ben?
A couple conversationally. Yeah. French, German, little bit of Chinese.
Paul?
I started French for A-level and thought, no thanks. So when we go skiing, I speak a bit of French to order the food. That's it.
Okay, I know that feeling. I spent 3 years trying to learn French in bloody boarding school, and I hated every minute. I was in the dodo class, and my mum was German, and I can understand it, but I can't bloody speak it. Anyway, that's a moot point. Let's move on. So I think it's Chris. Let's go over to you. What have you picked out from the papers?
Well, yeah, I tried to keep it light-hearted, Mark. Sort of picking up on what Paul saw is fascinating. The British obsession with pubs and how fermenting fruit on the forest floors from millions of years ago actually has shaped us as humans, how we become this social creature. Fermenting fruit fell on the floor, apes ate it and became slightly intoxicated and started doing it. It became a social sort of gathering thing, and it led us from being hunter-gatherers to farmers and a social creature, as it were. So that was quite interesting. It's all down to fermenting fruit, and that was quite interesting. And the other thing was more of a personal thing. I saw an article on a mummy that's been discovered 2,500 years ago, and 3D scanning has enabled us to see the tattoos on their arms, which is apparently so intricate that even the latest and greatest tattoo artists of today would struggle to do it. And from a personal thing, about 10 years ago, I went to a tattoo artist with my own design. The artist was off sick, so I went home and said, come back next week. And by the following week, I was sick of the design that I put together. So, I still haven't done it. I don't know whether I chickened out at the last minute or whether I thought it was like a middle-age crisis. I'm in my 50s. Does it look good having a tattoo? Discuss. Still slightly interested. I don't know. But
all right. No, thanks ever so much. That must have hurt in the old mummy days. I mean, they have these great machines that do it. Can you imagine having a tattoo done thousands of years ago? Great bunch of stories. Thanks for that, Chris. Okay, Ben, I'm going to bring you in. Let's talk about ErcoChair, please. I'm going to bring up the screen here. Let me go back to the papers. There we go. There's your chairs. So how have you been running this business? And you ran some gyms. I mean, how did you get from gyms to chairs?
Well, blimey. I mean, none of your listeners and none of these fellow poor guests on here have got time for a long story. So I'll give you the 30-second version. But yeah, I'm not from the county originally. It's now my home. I've got a wife and 2 wonderful children here, and I'll be here forever, I think, because my wife is from Gloucestershire. So I've realised that's it now. That's where I live. But I took a job originally in private healthcare. I came over, worked for Nuffield Health for a while. Left that, started my own gyms. We had one until very recently, until an MBO exit. We had one next to Kingsholm, Titan Performance Gyms, and we were very unique because we did chiropractic and sport-specific stuff. So basically, I had that, and then ErcoChair got bought by a private equity company, and one of the chaps at the private equity company was told, yeah, we need an MD. He said, okay, very specific skill set because of the chairs. And they found me. They asked me to do that 2 years ago, and now I am obsessed with chairs. to the point where I've just restored my pride and joy, which is an Eames lounge chair. For anyone that might, any geeks out there will know what that is, and I've got a lovely cord version, but I am a chair obsessive. But Ergo Chair, yeah, it's a 20-year-old business, and we've grown a lot over the last couple of years, but we do precision seating for the 10 people out of 100 in every workplace that need a real chair. And not a disparaging remark, Amazon's got its place, but a proper chair.
Right, okay. And you've just come back from Saudi Arabia, I believe, as well. So how did you end up going to Saudi for a bit of business?
Yeah, well,
What was it like?
we've seen a lot of growth, and actually, the Department for Business and Trade said to us, "Look, we think I mean, everyone sits down at some point, right, across the globe. That's the wonderful point of my market being quite resilient." And they said the Middle East, they're actually building a huge amount of hospitals in the GCC. They finally realised that healthcare isn't just for individuals of a high net worth. So they said, "There's a lot of need out there. Come with us on a trade mission." So I'm going back out there soon, actually, and I'm pleased to say we've got some case studies going on. We've got our products in hospitals in the UAE, all over Saudi. So yeah, we've got some really good stuff going on because we've got chairs specifically designed for midwives in the Middle East because they have a lot of appointments. They need to swivel, pivot, move, and we have a chair that allows them to move 360-degree motion and pivot and all these funky things. But yeah, so we're doing some really good stuff out there at the minute, Mark. I mean, it's an interesting place to do business, though. I'm sure some of the panelists have done business out there, and it's has its nuances.
Yeah, come on then. What's some of the nuances about giving too much away? As in, is it just the way you get treated over there, or what do you
No,
mean?
I would say the two things that fire through for me is the timeline is incredibly short if you get things right. We've got to go through a purchasing department and we've got to do this, we've got to do that. The PO is going to come in, 3 sign off. You'll find the person that'll say yes, and the very next morning they expect you to start making it. It's just a different world. And the other thing I would say is culturally, there are a lot of particulars around how you go and approach people. They love to network, but you must never walk up to someone from the side, for instance, even if they're drinking mid-conversation, halfway through, whatever beverage it is. That would be a faux pas. You must approach from the front. And that looks quite comical at times because you might see what looks like a queue of people trying to talk to one individual, but it's how it's done. So, yeah, interesting.
Okay, thanks very much for that insight. Brilliant, Ben, and good luck. How much do you reckon that marketplace is going to be worth for Erco Chair?
The GCC market I firmly believe that in a few years it'll be it'll double our EBITDA quite conservatively.
All right, congratulations. That's fantastic news, mate. Which obviously is great for, Gloucestershire and the UK. Okay, let's go to you, Paul. Obviously you haven't been working there, but 171 years. You must have seen it all. The business has seen it all. The competition is fierce, isn't it? So can you just explain to our viewers what George Bence does?
Yeah, well, we're builders merchants, so pretty much anything for the house, from the groundworks up to the roof. And yeah, you mentioned it's pretty brutal, our sector at the moment, and I've probably gone in the last 12 months to being cautiously optimistic to cynically pessimistic. And there's some green shoots. I'd use that political line, and I'll sort of probably end it with a little bit of a high of where we're going. But it's really tough because I won't continue to moan and groan about what the government did in October, but it's really affected us. National living wage and the NI. To go with that, obviously planning restraints issues there. Volumes are just down. Not as many people are spending their money. That's just households and house builders as well. They're not wanting to build as many houses and build up their stock. The other issue in our space at the moment is a good couple of years ago, there's a lot of influx of private equity money. And they were buying out a lot of independent businesses which didn't have succession. They tried to come after ours, but yes, and I hope to take it to the 7th for sure. And they were buying these businesses for a lot of money, financing, loaning against it. And as you can imagine now, the interest repayments on that are huge. But they're just chasing volume rather than trying to do the right thing, is try and make money for their business. They just want to feed that turkey up. and it's not going very well for them. So at the moment, the competition is rife out there, and the volume's down. So some of these private equity businesses are already shedding branches across the country. I'm pretty sure you'll see the big ones that you'll probably know, the Travis Perkins and the Jewsons struggling, and they continue to continue to do. All of the data is showing that we won't really see much of a recovery until H2 next year. It's a long way away. Well, 11 months now. We can just tick this July off. So that's the bad stuff. I think when I took over the business about 14 years ago now, I set myself a bit of a target. We were one branch. We did about 12 million. And I've always wanted, I mean, obviously turnover is vanity. Obviously, we've got to make the profit and make sure the EBITDA is there as well. But I wanted to get to 10 branches and to 50 million. And as you mentioned at the start, we're very much along that journey. And you talk about being excited about drills. Drills don't really do it for me. The mixed merchant side is tough. So I'm really glad that we sort of went into product diversification. So our Obsidian showroom here in Cheltenham, where very high-end bathrooms, we refurbed that earlier this year, and that's been going fantastically well. So people with a lot of money are still spending a lot of money. And our doors and windows business, very much retail and trade, that's really going very well at the moment. Quite a cottage industry that. So we're doing a lot around Gloucestershire on supply and fit doors and windows, and with our brand name, it's been around a long time, really goes far in that space. And online, we've got an online business in Abingdon. So if anyone's probably bought toilets off DIY.com, B&Q, that's a marketplace. You probably bought it from us. So we do about 350 grand a month with B&Q Marketplace, and it really works very well for us. And our online business, which is mainly bathrooms, is really flying at the moment. So that's good stuff. We are very close to securing a 10th branch in Swindon in the next week or so. So I can sort of tick that one off. I can't say too much at the moment. It's very interesting where it'll be coming from. Some of the subjects I've been discussing in the last 2 minutes. So I am still smiling, but it is very tough. It's very tough out there. I was going to say, no end to it.
I was going to say, because the building industry is tough, we're hearing all the time, Punchline's hearing all the time about companies going bust, as you can imagine. And that has a knock-on effect to, the people that you're dealing with, making sure that you don't get caught short.
It's crazy the people we give credit to, and wait a long time for our monies. And I thought I'd heard all the excuses for people not paying us, and some more again now. It's very tough to manage cash flow, especially I've got our accountants on the line as well, but we're doing okay.
Good.
That's a nice line to bring Ruth in. Actually, Ruth, and again, thanks for sponsoring the show. By the way, you've been doing it for a good number of years, which I really appreciate as well. Couldn't do the show without you guys. So Ruth, obviously, you've been in Hazlewoods for over 30 years, and tax for 30 years. You must have seen an awful lot of changes in that time. What would you say is the biggest change? Because you're not really tax anymore; it's business advice, isn't it? It's more holistic.
Yeah, I mean, that's correct. I was thinking about it. AI is making a difference, but the internet made a difference as well. And it's about how you use it. That's the key thing, because it can hallucinate. In the world I live in, expert witness reports, I tend to use it to summarize, lots of background detail. It's quite good at reading that and coming up with a précis, and it does it a bit quicker than my assistant does. So that's good. It also can do the sector research. But you mustn't let it go too wild, and you must check what it does, because in a certain case in front of a judge, some of the cases that were cited in the expert's report didn't exist. The internet, the IA had just made them up. So that was rather damaged the credibility of that report. So I think it's to be used with caution, but it can be used to create efficiencies, just as the internet was. So to my mind, it's like an extension of the internet, really, and it's about being sensible. But there's no doubt it's got huge power to replicate or to do some of the sort of more routine and mechanical tasks, which means that the accountants can concentrate on the advice side of things, and the more important, in my view, aspect in terms of the real value you bring to a business is the business advice you can give. And in terms of the changes over 30 years. I think turnaround time is what is so different from how it was when I started. If you got a letter or an email in the early days, you usually could respond within a few days, and that was perfectly acceptable. I will have clients chase me now if I haven't responded within 2 hours. So it's just crazy, the turnaround times they're expecting. And unless you put your out of office on, people just expect you to be online the whole time and responding to them very, very, very quickly. And of course, if you respond too quickly, you then expose yourself to making errors. That's the real balance that you have to sort of drill into your staff is, yes, respond quickly, but even if it's a holding message, because you need time to think about it. To me, that's the biggest change is the turnaround time.
The trouble is when you respond too quickly, the clients expect that all the time.
Yeah, that's also true.
And you give a high level of service, and what you can never say, I find this, you can never turn around to your client and say, "Hey guys, you're not the only person I'm dealing with here." Because let's be honest, that's the kiss of death, isn't it? And we all do that. We're all balancing lots and lots of plates, but you can't really say that. I've got 50. How many clients do you look after, Ruth?
Well, because I now do forensic work only, I've moved all my tax clients over to other people in Hazlewoods, and my portfolio is just whatever expert witness tasks I've got on at the time, and that can vary. They're a rolling sort of balance, because once I do a job, another one comes in. But then there's usually only sort of 5 or 6 reports that I'm dealing with or cases that I'm dealing with at any one time, generally. So it's not quite like it was in terms of the number of emails I used to get.
Do you kind of miss the old days? Because when you first started, obviously 30 years ago, the company would have been a lot smaller. You probably would have known everybody, but now there's 600 people. Does that make a big difference, or you don't need to? It doesn't bother you?
Well, I joined Hazlewoods in 2009, and there were 188 people there then, and I did know a good proportion of them. Now, because we've got the different sites, and from some extent because of working from home, which we're going to discuss later, I don't know nearly as many people as a proportion. Although, of course, I've known people for longer, so it sort of balances out a bit. But no, you don't have that same sense of a smaller group. But when you've got that number of staff across different sites, but you can't really avoid that. I don't think there's any way you can sort of get around that. And to be honest, everybody tends to work most closely with their most direct teams anyway. And as long as you've got sort of strong relationships with all of those, the business works.
Okay, thanks so much, Ruth. Brilliant there. So let's go over to you, Chris. Great to show you. I think we first met, it was around 20 years ago. I remember I lived on Seymour Road, and you were in Moreland Trading Estate. That's how we first met, actually. And you run a printing company, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And we've been sort of passing ships in the night and all the rest of it. It's great to have you on the show. I'm going to share your work because I remember you talking at the time about your love of photography. So let me just go over to share the screen. Let's bring up your website. Okay, so there we are, Chris. So you've been running your own photography business for 10 years. We just flick through some of the shots here. It's a difficult. How did you suddenly get your first client?
Well, as you know, I ran the printing business for a while, which did very well for a little while, and then we hit that year 2008-9 was it, the world recession, and people stopped printing. So unfortunately, we had to close the company down. But right from a small boy, I could only do really two things: take photos and play football. And I had my chances with football when I left school, and it didn't work out. I kind of drifted a little bit as a young man, sort of in and out of jobs and stuff like that. And it was funny, after the print business, it was a little bit of a dark time. My girlfriend bought me an old camera again, and I'd always kept my hand in it. It'd always been a passion of mine. Never had the confidence to think I could do it. And then I just started taking more photos, and people started coming to me and saying, "Can you do this for me? Can you do that for me?" And I worked really hard. I taught myself to be a retoucher as well. And here I am 10 years later, living the dream. It's the best job in the world. Maybe dolphin training.
I mean, the fact is you get to see all these wonderful things, work with all these great people as well. But, is it difficult to make money? Because it is feast and famine, isn't it? When you do this kind of work, because you're on your own, You've got to do the job. You've got to try and win some more work.
I might die with an ear missing in the south of France, but it'll be a life well lived. I don't chase the buck too much. I pay my bills. It is a bit of a roller coaster. The creative arts generally at the moment. The advent of AI and other things doesn't make it easy. But touch wood, I'm okay. I tend to work 2 or 3 times a month. There's a lot that goes into photography. People, sometimes balk at the, maybe our rates and stuff because they think we only turn up for a few hours. But there's a huge amount of time and planning, and a lot of effort goes in after the shoot to make them look like their adverts. But it is tough. The difficult part is wearing all the hats. The marketing hats, the finance hat. I just want to take photos, so I've got to do all this other stuff as well. I spend about 75-80% of my time at the computer trying to think of the next marketing campaign, and you've got to try and market yourself even when you're busy to try and flatten that curve out.
Yeah, I mean,
so I've got a question for you. Sorry to interject, Mark. Do you think you could make Mark look good as a cover model for Men's Health?
Well, yeah, I think possibly he's got potential. Yeah, take him over to Milan.
I think
get a pair of sliders on.
With your skill, mate, I reckon you can make me look pretty good actually. And a little bit of touch up rather than my 1-pack, you could probably give me a 6-pack. That would go down quite nicely as well. Chris, what's the have you got one photograph, one particular shot? I could go back to that, that really resonates with you, that you're really proud of.
It's a tough one, mate. As I say, it's like choosing your favourite child. It's I've got lots of stories around each shot. There's I was shooting a commission for the Fisherman's Mission last January. Fisherman's Mission, a fantastic charity. They look after fishermen and their families. Unfortunately, boats still go down quite frequently. And I was photographing the fishermen, who are quite a salty old bunch. You kind of turn up and, I'm a townie, and it's like, who are you? And when you explain what you're doing it for the Fisherman's Mission, they kind of take you into the boat, and you've got to go drinking with them. And then they're up again at sort of 5 a.m. And half of these guys are sort of 85 plus. And I was shooting, I get access to these hidden coves around Cornwall and things like that tourists never get to see. And I call it a shot of the oldest boy band in the world. And I think there was 8 of them. And I was lining a photo up of these guys. And the one at the front said, make sure you get the old boy in the shot. And I said, well, you're 87. And he said, yeah, but he's 96. And he was still out at sea. And lots of different stories. So it's hard to choose. I love doing the documentary work with the fishermen. That's really cool. But I love brand work as well. I love creating images that will go on to, sell a brand or a product. And I still think it's one of the most powerful forms of advertising you can do if you get it right.
Without a shadow of doubt, I always say, obviously when running Moose, I used to say the starting point for a website, for any marketing campaign, has to be the photography. If you beautiful photography will help sell anything, Thanks ever so much for that, Chris. Okay, we're going to turn our attention to the hot topic, which is the front page of the Times, which is this: working from home today. We know you clock off at 3 o'clock. Now, we all run our own businesses here, so we probably do our fair share. So on a Friday, I start at 5:30 in the morning. If I want to clock off at 3 o'clock, I think I'm pretty entitled to, but I tend not to, because I work a 13-hour day on a Friday because I'm bloody stupid, and that's why I'm still in business. But 3 o'clock, come on, Paul. You got 144 guys working from home. What's your opinion?
I mean, we're a customer-fronting business, so you can't drive a forklift or drive a truck from home, for starters. And I think really had its purpose during COVID to keep efficiencies going. But I think and this is just my sort of humble opinion as an independent business owner, that I don't think it's good for the person working from home either. That they're sort of working on their own. The fridge is close all the time, and and I think that the dog could be barking, or there's lots of distractions. Whereas at work, you're very much around people. You can be more efficient. I also think there could be trust issues as well between the employee and the employer. Are they actually working? Are they logged on? And a little bit of resentment from other employees who are going, how come they're working from home and I'm not? So, yeah, I'm not really for it. We do have a few working from home. Well, if they're watching this now, then I'm not sure if that's good or not, because they should probably be doing something else. But yeah, I'm not a huge fan.
Oh,
And I think people will clock off earlier. 3 o'clock, probably earlier than 3 o'clock on a Friday if the sun's shining. You know, you're going to have an Aperol spritz in the garden, wouldn't you? Or go and meet your mates down the pub.
Well, it's funny you should say that, because sometimes, I go off and play golf on a Friday afternoon, and around 4 o'clock, it's pretty full of young professional people, shall I say, teeing off. So I try and get there a little bit earlier, boys. And I'm talking a lot of young. I don't want to be stereotypical, but anyway, it seems to be that way. Ben, let's bring you in. What's your view on it? Working from home? Are they clocking off at 3 o'clock?
Well, it's a subject that I'm really powerfully interested in for two reasons, really. I mean, two sides of the coin. Ultimately, I run a manufacturing business. As Paul's already said, you can't build a product, you can't put a bolt in, you can't do all this thing and the other remotely. Well, you can in some trades, but not in ours. But equally, Ergo Chair is built on the premise that we often produce seating for people that can't perhaps get into an office. They might have a physical disability, they could be an amputee, they could have a spinal contusion, something that means they have to work from home. So I've seen it from both sides of the coin. I'll give you two cautionary tales, though, because I must admit, I probably, if pressured, sit on Paul's side of the fence as well. And the two things that kind of have blown my mind with this over the last couple of years, we've hired a lot of people at Ergo Chair recently with growth. And we have been told frequently by various recruiters that unless we're willing to make it a hybrid role, no one's even going to look at it. Now, I'll let everyone dissect what they think about that and what that's going to do to the labour market, the jobs market, and the talent pool over the next 5 years. But I think there's something there we've got to be aware of. And then the other one, which is a bit comical, but sadly it's true. A friend of mine works in e-commerce for one of the world's largest e-commerce sites. I won't name them because he'll get very annoyed that I've done it. But one of the top selling products is a mouse wobbler. Now, those of you that aren't aware or will claim you're not aware, but I won't point fingers at anyone on the panel, perhaps they are, small USB device that goes into your laptop, and you can set the parameters and it will move your mouse cursor for you throughout the whole day to basically deflect any detection or heat map that you're not engaged. And you can even get very clever versions of this that, guess what? You can teach it to open and close your Outlook at once an hour so that you still get the little green tick. I'll let you do what you will with that information. But yeah, that probably says it all, doesn't it? 3 o'clock might be generous, Mark.
Okay, though I've got a problem with people. I remember when I first started working from home years ago, my wife phoning me up and saying, can you put out the washing? And before you know it, it was like, oh, it's raining. Can you bring in the washing? Can you put the chicken in the oven? Can you take the chicken out of the oven? And before you know it, you're doing all these house jobs, hoovering and all sorts of stuff. Now, I run my own business. I could get away with it because I'd make the timer, but I don't think other people do all the time. Ruth, I'm going to bring you in. What do you reckon? You guys at Hazlewoods, I'm not saying that.
I think it depends on the type of work you do. Obviously, if you've got manufacturing, you can't work from home, and there are lots of jobs where you can't work from home. In the accountancy profession, you can, to a large degree, if you have the skill set to be able to work on your own. For trainees and for those people training them, they do need to be in the office because training online just doesn't work in quite the same way. And also, when you're in the early years of your career, you pick up so much from what's going on around you. And so therefore, if you have got people out of the office, they lose out on that to some degree. So it's a balance. For me, I like to work at home when I'm writing reports because of the concentration. If I'm in the office, there's people talking, there's people who come and talk to me about things and ask questions, and there's just so much going on. It's hard to do really concentrated work in the office environment, in the open plan area. And we don't have, we have some partners' office, but generally the partners are out in the open plan. So it's a mixture. It all depends on what you're doing. But I think it also depends on two things. One is the degree to which you can trust your staff and they accept that if they do put the washing out, they're going to make up the time. You're also going to be saving them the travel time. For me, if I go into Cheltenham, that's probably about an hour and a quarter, an hour and a half out of my day. And if I'm working instead, that's productive time as opposed to unproductive time. And also, we also need to sort of think about the planet, because if we're not all traveling all the time, we are actually reducing our carbon emissions, which has to be a good thing. We have a rule at or a guideline at Hazlewoods that it's 3 days in the office and 2 days at home is probably the balance that we try to strike in most teams. But as I say, it's a balance. And what we learned in COVID is that we can trust our employees. They did work, and with some of them, the difficulty was like you, Mark. 13-hour days, trying to stop them working too blooming hard. So it's nice to have that problem. But ultimately, it's what they produce, what the output is. So you might have something that moves your mouse or whatever, but if you're not actually producing anything, you're soon going to be caught out, aren't you?
I think you definitely will be, wouldn't you? I love the idea of this thing wiggling around on its own. Unbelievable. Thanks ever so much. Chris, you've been working on your own for years. You've got to be so self-motivated anyway, don't you, at the end of the day, because you're there. Nobody else is going to do the work for you. Nobody else is going to do your accounts. Nobody else is going to do your... You literally live and die from your own efforts.
Yeah. I'm an expert on homes under the hammer and place in the sun. I echo Ruth's words. Really, it's if you entrust your employees, then you've got no problems. The mouse wiggler thing, I've heard of them, but it's I should imagine it soon shows up whether somebody's not doing the work or not. And the travelling into work, what a bind. That was a big thing when I had a normal job. It was like, getting up, that Sunday night feeling that I had to drive an hour and a half, into Birmingham in rush hour and things like that. And you're talking to the wrong person here. I love being freelance. I work from home. I think the figures say that there's more productivity from people that work at home as well, isn't there? But I get it. If you're in manufacturing, you've got to be in a plant to use the machinery and things like that. There are critical roles, I should imagine. But
I was going to say, all my guys work from home. I used to have an office, paid £2,000 a month for it, and they all now work from independently. I can kind of judge how long a story would take, and so you can see how productive they are. My big problem about working from home is for young people. I used to have around 30 interns. Since I started the company, I've had 9 apprentices. I've always tried to help young people. And I did a talk at Crick School recently, about career in journalism, marketing, and someone came up to me afterwards and asked me for a work placement. And I can't do it. You can't do this type of job and offer a work placement. I think that is the biggest danger for young people. They're not going to get the experience that they used to have. And I'm just a small company trying to do my bit, And I feel that's the only thing. Anything else? Anybody else want to add anything to the debate, or we'll move on to pick up the punchlines?
Something I wanted to mention earlier, which was that I have used an ergo chair when I got a bad back, and it was fantastic, Ben. Thank you so much.
I didn't even pay for that plug, everyone. I haven't. I'm not a client, unfortunately. I didn't pay for it. Thank you, Ruth.
Thank you.
We had rock the hot tubs, rock the Cotswolds, rock the hot tubs, and she sold to one of the people that show her hot tub. Anyway. Moving swiftly on, the pick of the punchlines very quickly, guys, because we are miles over time. So we've got less than 30 seconds each. All right, let's start with you, Chris. What have you picked out from this week's punchline? Please stick with 30 seconds.
I quite like the Ribena Berries, the company in Colford, who are breeding the super berry as the climate changes. A lot of our food is going to have to become more resistant. We've had more sunshine up until this June and the whole of last year. So fascinating story about the super berries and the Ribena providers.
Okay, thanks for that. Ben, pick of the punchlines, please.
Pick of the punchline was Funky Pigeon, obviously recently acquired. And I picked it, love the dance, Mark. I picked it largely because, guess what? The age-old thing. Other providers are available. I'm a big fan of Moonpig.
I like Moonpig too. And I love the name and the branding. I just love it. It's just fantastic. Okay, thanks for that. Paul, what have you picked out from this week's punchline?
Yeah, firstly, apologies to Ben. This chair here is a £60 Amazon.
I've already clocked it. Awful.
Still together, 2-month-old now.
Paul, you're going to get a brochure in the post. You know that? You're going to get a brochure in the post very shortly. Sorry.
Hopefully a free chair. That'd be fantastic. Yeah, 50,000 businesses in critical financial distress, especially with business property relief coming next April as well, which is a real fear. Construction, obviously, my space, bars, restaurants, 30-40% up year on year with these businesses in financial distress. And I'm sure Ruth's insolvency part of their business are very busy at the moment and will continue to be so for the next year. And the government really need to try and help SMEs through this difficult period.
Couldn't agree with you more, Paul. I've been on about this all the time. I actually collared a couple of our MPs recently, and I actually lost my rag with one of them very unprofessionally because he just didn't understand where I was coming from. I had to apologise.
I get to the point when I watch the news now, and I can't. I have to switch off when Rachel Reeves comes on. I can't listen to her.
I actually really like Rachel Reeves. Actually, she's quite attractive. If you don't mind me saying, I met her in person. But there we go. Am I allowed to say that?
Sure, sure.
Moving swiftly on. Okay. Who have I missed out for the stories? Ruth. Sorry.
That's all right. Well, I sort of on both those stories. On the Ribena one, I love the fact that you wrote about blackcurrant breeding program. That had wonderful images for me about blackcurrants jumping around. On the flip side of Paul's story about businesses going bust, just to encourage small businesses, the British Business Bank has now reached 2.5 billion of lending under its growth guarantee scheme. And for those businesses out there that don't know about it, it's where the government backs 70% of the borrowing up to 2 million. Now, the borough is still liable to the debt of £100,000, but if the lender has got a government guaranteeing 70% of that lending, it makes that loan a little bit more viable potentially. So if there are businesses out there looking for loans up to 2 million, do look at the growth guarantee scheme via the British Business Bank and other lenders. And finally, my story from the Punchline is the one you ran yesterday about the first half-year results for Morgan Sindall. This is the construction company, which is actually very close to my heart at the moment, because as you know, I'm a non-exec on the board of the University of Gloucestershire, and Morgan Sindall have done the new city campus. And this Monday, they are handing it over to the university, and we will have students in there from September. So the project has happened. It is happening. It's brilliant for Gloucester. It's brilliant for the Gloucestershire, and roll on city campus.
I can tell you what, that was a long 30 seconds, Ruth, but thank you ever so much. Right, my pick of the bunch has to be the sad story of the administration fears for Versarion. This was a company that was once valued at 300 million. Can you imagine that? Only around 10 years ago. It's a sad end, very sad end for my friend Neil Ricketts' dream of growing the graphene business. And let's hope they can save the rest of it, but it's not looking too great, I'll be honest with you. Okay, that is all we have time for today. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. I'd just like to thank my fantastic panel. Thanks ever so much for joining us this morning. I'd like to thank you all for watching. If you like the show, please like, share, and subscribe. And we'll be back again next week. But remember, between then, it's all in the Punchline. Thanks ever so much for joining. Bye.